On today's episode of Big Time, brought to you by BJ's Tavern, Fort Kent, Maine, greatest bar in the world, you already know. Today we are joined by one of the hottest coaches in the game. Fort Kent Community High School graduate, UMFK graduate, and the pride and joy of Plaisted Maine, Robby Nadeau, on this week's episode of Big Time. Let's rock. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another round of this incredible show we call Big Time, the podcast. I'm joined by maybe our guest with the most accolades so far.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we got Robby Nadeau on the line.
Now it really is big time.
It really is big time. So we got Robby here, current coach of the Fort Kent Community High School girls soccer program.
Yep.
Listen, we're doing this a little bit differently, guys. It's a Wednesday night, so most of my big time episodes, it's in an intimate Friday or Saturday evening setting with some alcoholic beverages. Robby, are you even drinking anything tonight, or is there no beverage around tonight?
No, it's a water night tonight.
Water night tonight. That's fine. Real quick.
We
Also,
have a nice, we have a nice brewery in town, First Mount Brewery.
Yeah, I haven't been there, and they probably won't get my business because Charles approached them for sponsorship and they declined. So they probably won't be getting anything from me. But we'll say that for another time.
Then maybe you show your face first. Maybe they'll spot you something.
Yeah, that's probably the right approach to take.
Right.
But Robby, how do you say big time?
Big time.
Okay, there we go. Let's get right into it, Robby. Tell them about the childhood. So. Not Eagle Lake, right? You were born where? Sinclair? Not Sinclair.
Well, I was born in Plaisted.
Plaisted. I couldn't think of the name. Plaisted is the town.
Plaisted, born and raised.
What's the?
It's basically just it's really not a town anyway, but it's right. We had a post office, so they had to give it a name.
Yeah. So what are we talking about for population for those folks that aren't familiar?
Maybe 30.
30 people.
Yeah, maybe on a good day.
Yeah. But,
probably 50, 60 in the summer.
Yeah. Once that vacation crew comes in for the summertime, it spikes a little bit.
Right.
But nice little spot. But so you kind of came up in Eagle Lake. Eagle Lake would be the town people are more familiar with.
Yeah.
Let's hear about the childhood, because you're our first guest from the whole Plaisted Eagle Lake area. So what was it like growing up in that area?
Well, it's pretty quiet. Eagle Lake was the closest little town. That was 5 miles away. So we did just really a lot of swimming, a lot of playing in the woods. We really kept busy, hands-on type of stuff.
Were you
a little nerdy kid, so I read a lot.
Were you biking into town, or like in the summertime? Were you biking into Eagle Lake and looking for things to do?
Oh yeah, always riding bike.
What about what's the local swimming hole over there?
The local what?
Swimming hole.
Well, I mean, Plaisted's right on the lake, so we've always had a dock. And I mean, really, you're looking at probably 10, 11 feet deep off the end of the dock back in the day.
That's not too bad.
So you could jump right off. I mean, I'm not much of a treading water type of guy. I'm more like a cannonball and Pepsi.
Gotcha. So what was it like for athletics growing up? Did Eagle Lake have a rec department?
Eagle Lake had a rec department. I remember, we had Vicky Higgins. When I was younger, I must have been in 3rd or 4th grade. We had Vicky Higgins. She was our rec director back then, so that was a good time. She actually got us into sports a lot. And then you'll know, here's another guy you might actually want to interview at some point, Lauren Gee.
Oh yeah,
he was a rec director when I was in 8th grade. And back then, I feel like I was pretty athletic, so we did floor hockey, soccer, all those types of things. So I feel like my teams dominated back then in Eagle Lake. So yeah, going into Eagle Lake was a K-8 school back then. And we had our little middle school league. We had 2 teams from Fort Kent, St. Francis. Wallgrass had a JV team, but we were terrible.
At everything, or just one sport in particular? Because when I was coming through, like your basketball teams were terrible, but I want to say soccer. You guys were all right.
Probably soccer, we were okay. I mean, we had speed, but my years, I was probably the best soccer player, the best basketball player, and the best baseball player. And I probably wasn't that good at any of those three at that point. So that's not saying a whole lot about our teams. But we had a good time. We had fun.
Usually at that age, like the best player is usually the biggest kid at that point. Were you the biggest kid?
Oh God, no. I was small. I weighed like 81 pounds in eighth grade.
So you were just small, feisty, physical.
Speed was my game.
Yeah, aggressive. Aggressive was your game as well, wasn't
Yeah, yeah. Speed's not my game anymore though.
it? So,
But you know what? A few years before me, my brother John's class would be the high school class of '97.
yeah,
They had a couple years where I don't think they lost the game in Eagle Lake.
yeah, because I forget who it was. It might have been Aaron Duma when he was on the pod. He was talking about how was it Jeff Drolet who was right before him?
Well, Jason Drolet,
Jason Drolet and Jeff Drolet, right? The Drolet brothers.
the Drolet brothers. Yannick Neto was around at that point.
So who else do we have from Eagle Lake? Because I'm guessing Eagle Lake wasn't always terrible. I want to say at some point you guys probably were producing some stellar athletes.
Well, other than myself, yeah, there was a few. Like I said, Yannick. I know Yannick played in high school. My cousin Jeff Neto, he played for a while. I think he was in the years with like Lon Berthume and those guys.
Yeah. And your brother John, was he an athlete as well?
Yeah, John played ball. I think he played a couple years in high school. I don't know that he stuck with it. John was big on soccer. Soccer was his thing.
Right.
So John in 97 was his senior year. They were a loaded team. They were number one in Eastern Maine, and I think they lost at Camden Rockport at home in the playoffs.
Were you the type that you traveled to all the away games, all the home games?
Oh God, no.
No,
Because I was in my sports.
that's true.
So we always had our middle school type of stuff.
So okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because you guys would have been like back to back. So pretty much like when he graduated, you were an incoming freshman at that point.
Yeah. So we were all, I always had my things going the same days that he had things going. We made the home games and stuff, and other than that, I don't remember traveling a lot.
Huh. How about for people you came up with, like your era from Eagle Lake? Like, who were some of the guys in your class that are from Eagle Lake that you kind of came up with from a very young age, all the way through middle school?
Oh, so I had a good friend, Justin Nadeau, growing up.
Yep.
Justin Nadeau. I haven't seen Justin all the time. I see his brother Jason a lot. Jason lives in Fort Kent. I think he works for Docs. Who else? Tyler Ghana still around here. I don't see those guys a lot anymore.
You pretty much the only athlete from your class?
Yeah, once we got to high school, I was the only guy that played sports.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys really did struggle back in middle school. So not too many fond memories from middle school.
Listen, when I'm the best athlete that you have, things are not going well for your teams.
So when you were playing in middle school, like let's just throw big bro Charlito out there. Like, do you remember like your first interaction with Charles, like on the soccer field playing against him?
Oh no! I don't. Soccer, probably don't remember any of that. I think I actually played goalie in middle school for a little while. So I was probably maybe 5'1". I remember Cody Daigle scored a goal on me from like 40 yards out in St. Francis, and the ball just went over my head.
Just couldn't reach it. Just too small.
I had no chance. I remember Charles more in basketball though.
Yeah. So what are your first recollections of Charles on the playing field? Because both you guys are known to be feisty, aggressive, just little guys. What was it like going against Charles?
Well, I feel like he always had big hair. Number one.
Yeah.
Big hair, freckles. And back then it's kind of like in high school it was Fort Kent versus Madawaska or Prescal and Caribou and stuff. And
yeah.
Elementary school, it's those Fort Kent teams. We got to get those guys, and I mean we weren't really that competitive, so we wouldn't mind fouling a little bit. Bruise them up a little bit.
Yeah.
But for those guys, like I said, we weren't competitive, so I guess I tried to get rid of some of those memories of my middle school sports days.
Yeah.
So then we got into high school, and it was weird because then you're all friends with all the athletes again,
Yeah,
because you're the
so
guys on the same teams and stuff like that. You spend a lot of time together.
yeah, so you're one of the few people that I've had on the show so far that had to kind of integrate into Fort Kent and like come from one of the surrounding towns. Ethan was the other guy who had to kind of integrate in middle school when he came to Fort Kent. What was
Yep.
that integration like when you came to Fort Kent Community High School from the small town of Eagle Lake? First of all, that bus ride it must have been pretty shitty every day.
That bus ride was terrible because actually wasn't on the Eagle Lake bus going into high school. They put me on the Wallagrass bus. But what would happen is, Plaisted's right between Eagle Lake and Wallagrass, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be the first person picked up for the Wallagrass run. They'd go around, do this little loop, pick up all the elementary kids, drop them off at Wallagrass, then do that loop again and pick up all the high school kids,
Holy
and then
shit!
bring us to school. So I was on the bus for maybe an hour, 10 minutes
Every day.
every day. Yeah,
What
first one
time?
picked up, last one dropped off.
So what time would you be picked up at in the morning?
6:55.
Oh, God. That does
No, it's
make
crazy.
yeah. And
And
you just missed your brother. Like your brother could have gave you rides, but he graduated right when you were coming in, so that didn't work out for you.
oh yeah, I had 2 years on the bus. My sister was on the bus too. I got a twin sister.
Nice.
So
Uh, any back of the bus stories or anything crazy that you remember?
no, I was good, man. I never did anything wrong.
Yeah. So what was it like whenever you came to Fort Kent? Like, did you make friends pretty quickly? I'm guessing you played soccer as a freshman, so
Yeah, so
you would have interacted with the soccer players.
so it's tough coming in as a freshman because there's a lot of bonds that are formed in middle school.
Yeah.
So you come in as a freshman, and these guys, they already have their kind of, I'm not going to call them cliques, but they're circle of friends. They're already formed. They're already grouped up. And it's really tough to get into that group, especially once you get into high school. So I mean, I think it actually really took probably a couple of years before I really became friends with those guys. Your
So
brother and stuff. I mean, we were friends and we played soccer together, but I think once I got my license and I was actually able to start doing stuff outside of school hours, that's when we started really becoming good friends.
right. So when you came
But
in
it's
as a
tough. I mean, you got Charles is there. Charles is fast. He plays soccer. He sees this ridiculously good-looking guy from Eagle Lake stealing all the girls and outrunning him on the soccer field. I can see why he might have been jealous at times.
yeah, he wanted no part of it. He didn't like you. I'm guessing right off the bat.
I, they were jealous. I understand.
So when you came in as a freshman, were you into the whole summer soccer program? Were you going to like the whole? I don't even know what you guys did for like a summer program, but I know you guys started early.
Yeah. So Men's used to do some summer stuff, but I had no idea what that was.
So
So
did you just show up like when school started and tried out for the team, or were you there for the summer program?
I was there. I came in during preseason,
Okay.
so it was cool. I played my freshman and sophomore year. I played JV.
Who was your JV coach at that point?
Paul Markey.
Oh, another guy who played for Paul Marquis. What are your thoughts on Paul Marquis, real quick?
Paul was crazy. He was good though. He knew the game.
Yeah.
He was good he was a really good teacher. And a great motivator. So he'd put you off the field and he'd tell you what you need to do, what you need to fix, and he'd tell you how to do it. He was a really good coach. I wish I actually could have had more time with Paul.
Do you have a relationship with him still now as being a fellow coach? Do you ever reach out to him or anything like that?
I don't talk to him too often. I know every time that we've won the Eastern Maine Championship, all those guys always reach out to me, say, hey, if you need anything, let us know. Any type of scouting reports if they can help us out. Him and Lon and Aaron Ouellette, those guys are all down there, so
Yeah,
they see some of those Western Maine teams.
absolutely. So when you were coming up, this was still at a time when there was no shortage of numbers when it came to the sports teams, right? So you said you played JV, and I'm guessing there was a full team, right? You guys weren't struggling for numbers back then. Everyone was still playing sports at
Yeah,
that point.
so I think our freshman year, it was actually, I don't want to say our numbers were low, but we were a young team. My brother's senior class, they had like 12 seniors that played soccer. And I think our freshman year, I want to say John Lozier was the only senior that was on the team. So we had guys like Aaron and Charlie, Scott Terrio, those guys. They swung, so they played both. I think Lance may have swung as well. Lance Morin. But no, we had a full JV team. It was good. I mean, I think if we had not had a JV team, I don't know if I would have stuck with soccer.
So when did you kind of come into your own as a soccer player then? Because obviously later on when you were playing varsity, you were a key member of some very very good teams. Obviously played in college as well. So you mentioned being very very small in middle school. When did you kind of start coming to your own in high school?
Well, I'll say yeah, I also wrestled in high school, so I'd probably say after freshman year, I started to put on a little bit of weight. Not like weightlifting type of weight, but just growing into myself a little bit.
Right.
So I would say probably start towards the end of my sophomore year, I was starting to get some size where I could really compete physically with some of the bigger guys. But I have a good story for you. So we're playing in Caribou. This is soccer in Caribou, and back then, if you got a yellow card, you had to sit out for 20 minutes. And Dave Roy got a yellow card. He was our defensive mid, so he had to come out of the game for like 20 minutes. And I want to say like 5 minutes later, Charles got a yellow card.
That sounds about right. Charles getting a card.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh, so these guys are out, and Caribou's a tough team, and we were. I don't want to say we were that young, but we were a good team as well. But you lose two of your top guys, that's never easy for any team. So I think Miz just kind of looked at his bench and said, "What the hell do I do now?" And just threw me in there, and I ended up playing a great game. I won a lot of good balls. I never had really any ball skills, but I think that game went into overtime. I think I made the pass to Anthony. Anthony scored the winning goal in overtime. It was one of those kind of pig pile moments on the field. But that would have been my coming out party for soccer.
That was what you said junior year.
That was my junior year. Yeah.
So did you kind of just play defense by default? Like, was it just like Minzy said, go play this position, or did you kind of is that what you wanted to play? Is that the position you kind of chose once you got to high school? Because I know you said you played goalie in middle school, a little bit of everything. Where did defense come from?
I think people looked at me and thought no ball skills, so let's put him on defense. So on JV, I played mostly wing back. I would say my freshman year.
Yeah.
And then going into sophomore year, put a little bit more in the middle of the field, stopper type stuff. And yeah, I think he threw me in a defensive mid, and like I said, I won the midfield defensively. So, but I was a defensive minded player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell me to go get the ball, I'll go get the ball.
Yeah, I've heard stories. Charles has told me some stories of what he used to say to you and stuff like that. Actually, you might have a question about that later on.
Yeah,
in the episode.
He told me sometimes, don't worry about the ball, go get the guy.
Just having someone else do his dirty work. Unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned your brother's team right before you came into high school was one of the best teams in Class B his senior year. Your kind of group of guys, you guys kind of worked your way up in terms of just getting better every year. So you talk about junior year was the time you kind of came into your own. Would you guys finish with win-loss record that year? You guys made the playoffs, right?
We did.
And
we
win-loss?
did, and see, I don't remember. I don't know if this is sophomore year or junior year because all those memories tend to go together after a while. But I think we went to Ellsworth. I think we lost to Ellsworth 2-0 in the playoffs.
I remember you guys lost to Orno in Orno as well. That might have been sophomore year though.
That might have been.
Yeah.
That was sophomore year because I don't think I played a lot in that game.
Gotcha. I remember that being a physical game. I just remember a lot of really good physical games. And you mentioned playing.
Lucas Guimau went to the hospital after that game.
It's true.
Or during that game, him and Kelly Stead, I think, hit into each other.
Yeah. That was a pretty gnarly injury. I remember that. I remember blood on the field.
Charles was sweeping, and they were pulling the offside trap. There was an article on the paper about it the next day.
Yeah. You mentioned the game against Caribou, playing in Caribou under the lights. Just remember at that time there were just a lot of really good teams you guys were going against, especially in the county. Like just every game you guys played, it seemed like you guys were playing just a lot of really good teams back then.
Yeah, I mean our schedules back then were tough. I mean, at that time we were playing Van Buren, and Van Buren was winning state championships in Class D. Maybe they might even have been Class C back then, but there was no gimme games really that we played except for maybe Callis. I think we beat Callis 14-2 our junior or senior
Eesh,
year.
you God.
But
Yeah.
even then, Callis we beat them 14-2, and I think that year they finished third or fourth in Class C. So we played really well against them, but it's not like they were that terrible of a team.
So you mentioned them. Madawaska would have been good at that point too, right? You guys, I'm guessing, had some pretty crazy rivalry games with Madawaska.
Yeah, actually, I think our freshman or sophomore year, we lost to Madawaska like 7-1 up in Madawaska,
Oof.
and that would have been Ben Marshall, uh, Cooper, Clavette. Those guys were all playing at that point.
Right. So let's hear some Madawaska stories because I mean people talk about it being a rivalry now, but I remember being a lot more physical back then. Do you have any good stories or just memories from that Madtown rivalry?
I don't have many good Madtown stories. I know there was one guy that kept sliding cleats up, and your brother told me to put an end to it, and I put an end to it.
How did you put an end to it?
Well, it was a 50-50 ball, and I went for the ball, and we both kind of collided into each other. But I think he got the message. He was going to start staying on his feet a little bit. But some guys like to slide a lot,
Yeah.
which is fine. There's a time for it and a place for it. But and it wasn't dirty or anything. It was a physical game back then.
Right.
And Fort Kent Madawaska was always going to be physical.
I want to see you guys got the better of that matchup though. Your junior and senior year, right? I don't think you guys lost to them. Well, senior
Yep.
year, you guys had barely lost to anyone. You guys only had like 2 losses senior year, right?
Yeah, we lost Prescal twice.
Yeah.
That was it. I don't know what it was. We could not beat Prescal. But back then, that particular year, and we were really good. And I'm not gonna say they weren't good, but they weren't special. And they beat us very very easily both times.
Did you like playing at Prescott?
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
I kind of feel like they have like the nicest field. Would you say they have like the nicest field conditions, lights, stadium, like in the county at least?
I mean, they have the turf, so everybody kind of looks to that as being the best, I guess. But we used to have a really nice field back in the day. The grass is probably not as good as it used to be. But you know who really has a nice place to play is the lower field in Caribou.
Yes, that is a nice field too.
That lower field in Caribou is a beautiful play, beautiful grass field. That field is probably the best grass field to play soccer in.
Yeah,
They take really good care of it.
they have like they have like grounds crews. I feel like they actually take care of their stuff. They put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, they have practice fields.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference too, right?
We practice at least two teams every day on our game field.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to tear that up a little bit.
Yeah.
You and Charlie in the back on defense. Who else was back there with you? You had Tibbs in goal.
With Tim the goal, Casey. I think Casey played the other back.
Casey Guimar or Casey Bushi?
Casey Boucher played for a little bit. Where did he play senior? I don't remember where he played senior. Travis Duval played there for a little while.
So yeah, let's just rattle off some names because you guys had some really good teams your junior and senior years. So your defense was solid. You mentioned Anthony Lamar. Who else?
Yeah.
Who else did you guys have? I remember Justin Dubois transferring to Fort Kent for his senior year. That was a pretty big deal.
That was a big deal. I'm going to miss somebody, so I'm going to apologize right now if I miss people. But so we had Charles sweeping, Scott Terry was stopping, Aaron was in the midfield. Then you had me, and I think it was Travis or Casey on the other wing back. Who's the defensive mid? No, wait, I was the defensive mid. Yeah, I was the defensive mid, and then Casey and Travis Duval were the wing backs. And I think you had Justin or Lance on one wing, Cody Daigle on the other, and then Kirk Levesque and Anthony striking.
Wow, that is a squad right there. Like Kurt was solid. Anthony was solid. Just all around, you guys were really good.
Yep, Chuck Guy played somewhere in that.
Yeah, that's true. Truck was in there too.
Yeah,
it was a really really good team. What was it like playing for Coach Minzy?
Oh, Minz was good, man. It was all about triangle passing, a lot of possession. I'll be honest with you. In terms of my coaching, I've taken a lot from Minzy. So a lot of the stuff that he did, I think I try to emulate. Really focus on possession. Don't worry about how many shots you're getting. Make sure they're quality shots. Those types of things. Speed
It,
in the wings. We play a lot. I like to play a lot with our wings.
I feel like everyone who's played for Mincy too, like they just have nothing but the utmost respect for him, and like that's their guy. Like, that's the one guy they'll go to war for. Like of all the coaches I've ever had, like they love Minzy.
Yeah, I definitely see that. It's one of those things where you kind of hope some of your players come away like as a coach now. Hope some of my players come away with the same feelings. Same thing playing for Murph in college.
Right.
You know, Murph too. Murph's one of those guys you do anything for.
Yeah. You have any Coach Minzy stories in the locker room? I heard he was quite the fiery, passionate guy.
Yeah, well, I have one story, I guess. And so we're in Fort Ken. We're playing Holton, and this year it's got to be our junior year, and I scored 2 goals in high school. Okay, and both of them were against Holton. One was at home, and it's in this game. And we were just playing terrible. We were sloppy. We were kind of lazy, a little lethargic. And we go into the locker room at halftime, and I don't think the clipboard made it back out. But like if I'm scoring, we're in trouble. But that's probably my only good Mins kind of blowing it story.
Yeah.
But again, one of those things we were kind of blessed because again I had Paul, and then Mins was the varsity coach at the time, so it's not like he wasn't coaching us either.
Yeah.
So we had Mins and Paul for the first couple of years, and then I can't remember who it was after that. Oh, and then so after that, Mins. I mean, we just learned so much about the game, about passing and all that type of stuff. I mean, really learned a lot about the game of soccer, not just running and kicking.
Yeah, and I can see that. Like, and it seems like, does he have a coaching tree? Are you one of the few players that kind of came out from under Minzy and like kind of branched off and went the coaching route? Like Paul played for Minzy, I would guess, back in the day.
Yeah, so Paul played. There's me, Lucas.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, Lucas is probably the most accomplished.
National championships,
Yeah.
multiple.
In terms of soccer, I'm not really sure who else.
That's not bad though. I mean, all you guys have won. I think
Right?
all you
Yeah.
guys have won at least a regional crown, so not too bad. Let's get into our first segment of the show here. Ethan asks, and guys, this is season 2, and we're still looking for sponsorship for Ethan asks. We need someone to step up. Let's get Ethan a sponsor. Ethan asks, Robby Nadeau, big time questions. Let's go.
On another edition of Ethan Asks Big Time Questions. You got Robby Nadeau, who is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And I think the best soccer player to come out of Eagle Lake, for sure. So take us through that game-winning goal that you had in Holton, on the road. What was it, from half field as time expired? Yeah, it's got to be one of the most legendary goals in Fort Kent soccer history. So what was going through your head when you kicked it? What was the bus ride home like? And I hope you had all the senior girls waiting for you back at the house when you got home.
All right. Picture it. Holton, 2000. We're really not playing that great. Holton was okay, but they weren't anything special. I think it was under the lights. It might have been raining. But it's a tight game. We're number 1 in Eastern Maine. I think Camden Rockport was right on our heels. Which might have ended up being a good thing if that would have happened. But so end of the game's happening. I think somebody kicked the ball up forward. Kirk hit it towards the middle. This ball is just bouncing towards me, and there's like 7 seconds left. So I run up to it and I just kick it towards the goal. The goalie started to come out a little bit, thinking, there's no way. And then he starts looking at the ball's kind of hanging in the air as the time is running down. And of course, like you're thinking of the movie where you see like the lights flashing in the timer as it's going down. So picture that as I'm talking. So ball's in the air going, lights flashing, right? He starts backpedaling, okay? Because this ball has a chance here. He goes to jump up to save it, and the ball goes right over his fingertips, right under the crossbar. And as soon as the ball bounces on the ground in the goal, the buzzer goes off. Game winner. Walk off. Walk off in
buzzer
regulation.
beater. That's crazy.
Listen, if there's 1 second left on the clock in soccer, you have to restart. So they would have had to come out and do the whole tap the ball in the middle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was no time left.
That's a picture perfect ending right there. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't even ride home with the team because my parents, we were all headed to Connecticut that night. So we left from Holton. So here I was, the hero.
And you couldn't even enjoy it.
And I drove to Connecticut.
All right, Ethan.
But that was my one shining moment in high school.
That's a good one though. That's a walk-off goal. That's very rare.
Right? And I feel like I've told that story a few thousand times. If you ask any of my stalker girls about that story, they'll roll their eyes and tell you they've heard it a million times.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the heartbreak senior year playoffs at home? Do you want to go into that game, or do you want to skip that? I know it's a sensitive subject for some people.
No, we'll have to go into that game.
Yeah. So who was it? It was Orno. It wasn't Orno, was it? It was
MDI.
MDI at home. You guys are the 1 seed. Kind of a weird day weather-wise. There was a rain delay. The field got torn up. Real physical game.
You know, we say that like it was. The field wasn't great. The rain didn't help. But we dominated that game.
Yeah.
I looked at the old paper clippings of that game, and we outshot them by like 20 shots. Cody Daigle turned his ankle early on in that game, and that hurt us because we played so much with our wings. If you lose one, then you're down in your rotation. So we probably had 3 or 4 guys that could go in and play really well on the wing. But if you lose one of them, then you're asking those 3 other guys to run more. So I think that hurt us a lot. I don't think we missed the PK, but we had a lot of balls go over the crossbar, and even that last goal was a heartbreaker. 7 seconds left in the game. I think the ball went out wide a little bit. The ball went out wide, came back to the middle, and the guy that was on the wing came back in, cut in, and just got the ball. And I can see that ball going right past Nick Thibodeau's fingertips.
And it was the final score was 1-0, right? That was it. That was the only goal of the entire game.
No, it was 2-1.
2-1. There was some goals.
2-1, yeah.
I do remember you guys having a bunch of chances. Like I just remember just a lot of opportunities that were just inches from going in and just didn't happen.
Well, their goalie was unbelievable.
Yeah, I do remember that as well. Like he had the game of his life.
He had the 2 weeks of his life because they ended up going from as the 8th seed. They went all the way to state championship.
Yeah, just an incredible run.
We lost to the 8th seed. I know that, but at least they beat everybody else in their path.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of got to eat at you a little bit because knowing that they made it to states, that could have very easily been you guys as well, if not for just a unfortunate break at the end of that game.
Yeah, and there's probably 30 breaks in that game, and we lost every one of them.
Yeah. Just a crushing defeat. I remember the aftermath because it took place at my parents' place in the garage out back. Just a painful defeat, and you guys just took it really, really hard.
We did take it really hard. I remember crying on the tractor in your parents' garage there for a little while. I think me and Aaron shed some tears.
So that's how high school soccer ended. What about wrestling? Did you wrestle all through high school?
So wrestling, we had Ron Daigle, called him Fox Daigle. So he was a great wrestling coach, very technical.
He was, right? Yeah, like he looked like a cerebral type of wrestler.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. I mean, as old as he was, and I guess he wasn't really that old, but he seemed older to us. I don't think I ever took him down, ever scored a point on him. So I wrestled with Craig Karen, Davis DeShane. I mean, there's a bunch of other guys.
Davis, one of the greatest to ever do it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, guy, he won a state championship his senior year. But no, those were good times. I mean, back then, I haven't been to wrestling practice lately. So, obviously, when you look at me, I haven't been to a wrestling practice lately. But, I mean, you got to be tough to be a wrestler. I mean, the workouts that they put us through. we were kind of insane, I think, at the time to go through that stuff. But we were tough. We had Bert Martin. Bert Martin was our coach, my junior and senior year,
Yeah.
or my sophomore and junior year. And God, he was tough as nails. He toughened me up a lot.
How were you as a wrestler? Were you successful?
That was pretty good. I went to states every year. I got second. The best I ever did was second in the state. I lost in the state finals. So that year, I lost 4 times that year, and I lost to the same guy every time. I lost to him in the regular season, in the PVC championship, in the regional championship, and then in the state championship.
Where was he from?
A guy named Travis Hutchinson, and he was from Bucksport.
Oh, well, Bucksport's a freaking wrestling factory, though.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But and the worst part was he was a really nice guy, so I couldn't even dislike him.
Yeah.
Just
couldn't be mad at him.
Yeah. So.
What weight class were you wrestling at?
So my freshman year, I put on a little bit of weight. I wrestled 119, and then I think my maximum weight was 140.
Wow, that's quite the change right there. And
I won't tell you what I weigh now, but I'll tell you that I weighed 140 and I was 5'8", and I'm still not quite 5'8" now. I've gained a few pounds, I think, since then.
Did you ever have any difficulty making weight, or just having to do crazy things to make weight?
Well, back then it used to be. Back then, you did a lot of things that they're really frowned upon now, and I don't think it was very smart for me to do it, and I wouldn't want my kids, I guess, to do what I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, stupid stuff like running up and down the stairs with wearing plastic suit to lose weight, to sweat when the season starts. But you know what? They're smarter now. Like the officials in wrestling, once you weigh in a certain weight, you can't go too high or too low from that particular weight. They really do a good job, I think, now regulating that for kids, because it wasn't healthy what we were doing.
Right. You think you'd ever have any interest in going back and coaching wrestling at some point?
Oh, it's been so long since I've talked wrestling. In terms of the moves, I think most of the moves, my mind is probably forgotten. I think if I put myself on the mat and I start wrestling, I'd remember them all and I'd be able to do them. My instinct would still be there, but in terms of teaching it, I think it would take some time.
Back in high school, you and your buddies, if you guys just happened to start grappling, was there anybody that could take you, or were you hands down just untouchable back then?
No. Davis was probably the best guy I ever wrestled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about just your circle of friends? You ever grapple with Charles? Because Charles used to try to beat up on us, and he had some grappling skills. I don't know if he ever grappled with you though.
I don't remember. Probably because it wasn't a memorable fight for him. So if we did, it wasn't too difficult. I just kind of put that away in my box of easy time. So, me and Scott Terrio had a boxing match once.
Was it a sanctioned boxing match, or was it just?
It was sanctioned. Your brother was the referee.
Where did this go down? Was this in the backyard at someone's house, or?
This was at Derek Cooper's.
Okay.
So it was just a late night boxing match.
Bare knuckle, or did you guys have some gloves?
No, we had gloves.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I think we had 2 sets of gloves. I'm going to tell you right now that there's a video of that boxing match, and I think it's at your parents' house.
Oh, man, I gotta find it then, because I'm gonna put it up on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, John, you may not want to do that. Your brother had that camera.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think he just set that camera up one night and just videotaped us all night.
Who won?
Kind of creepy. It was a draw. I was out of breath, and I think Scotty had a little blood dripping from his nose.
Okay. Charlie stopped it.
Charlie, yeah, he stopped the fight.
So you mentioned just the boxing match, and you came up with a great group of guys. You have a great group of friends. Just let me hear, well, I don't know if you want to go back as far back as high school, but what was the party scene? What were you guys doing for fun back then? It could be high school or college, the college years. What were you guys doing for fun?
College was cool because when we played soccer in college, you were with that team so much. We were taking 14-hour bus rides out to upstate New York, upstate Vermont, that you just had this cohesive unit. I mean, I remember Timmy Farah. Timmy Farah's coaching downstate too. I mean, I just remember barbecuing at his house late night. I mean, those guys were your brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You worked so hard with them, and we at that point we were, it was Murph yelling at us or Malik yelling at us, and it really bonded us together. And even your brother. I was friends with your brother in high school, but I think Charles became one of my best friends really once we got into college.
Right.
We were friends before that. Don't get me wrong, but as close friends as we are, that only happened really in college.
And you mentioned when you came from Eagle Lake to Fort Camp for high school, having to integrate, with a group of guys who kind of already had their cliques and stuff like that. What was the integration like in college? Because you were coming to a team full of guys from all over the world. Was it an easy integration, or was it a little bit more difficult?
It was easy because everybody was in the same boat.
Right.
And we had, Josh Roy was around. There was a good older group of guys, Jay Plord. Those guys were great about making sure that we were all, up to date and up to speed with everything, and they kept us involved. And, you have when you have those good group of leaders, those older guys, they can really make sure that the ship runs smooth.
Yeah, because the first couple teams.
I'll tell you a story. Going into college, I think it was me and Charlie had the same math class. It was at 8:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We made most of those classes too, I think. But we walked into that class. It was me and Charles, and I think Derek Cooper was sitting in the back. And I tell this story often because we hated Derek.
Yeah.
He was from Madawaska.
Yeah.
But you walk into that class, and those are the only guys so you automatically go sit next to them. You start talking, and I think we went to hang out at Cooper's apartment right after that class, and I want to say we hung out every day for the next 2 years.
There you go. Was Coop playing soccer at that point, or was he just getting back and not really playing at that point?
I don't think he didn't play that year. I know he played the year after.
Yeah.
Maybe he did play that year.
So just a great group of guys, and it was a good blend because you guys had a bunch of not even counting St. John Valley guys. There was a big group of you guys, and then you had the whole international flavor.
I can't do the whole lineup of this one, but I can tell you. So Charles was sweeping. I was on a wing back. I can't remember. Kudots is what we called him. He was the right back. He was from Russia or Lithuania or something like that. Juan Murphy was on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Hatim and Adil, they were from Morocco.
Yeah.
Zach Cody was from Van Buren. There's a bunch of other guys on that team. Josh Roy, Tim Farah, Jay Plord.
So what was it like playing in Charlie Bard's shadow for high school and part of college too, right? I'm not saying he was better than you. I'm saying literally, if you were standing between him and the sun on the field, that big-ass dome of his with that blonde curly afro is going to be blocking the goddamn sun out. So tell me what it was like playing with him, and was he as much of a stud as he says he was?
It was tough. You had to rein him in, first of all. But Charles was good. I mean, him and he was a good communicator too, so he played sweeper. So when he said up, you got up. Whenever, Charles was really good about, I played in the midfield for him in high school, and then I played on the wing back. So if you can't communicate well with your sweeper, you're probably in a lot of trouble. But, when he said to step, I stepped. Whenever he said, really, really trusted him. So we had a lot of trust there. So Charles was good at putting us in good positions to be successful. He would have been a great soccer coach as well.
He still has time. I think maybe once the kids here, once the nieces get into it, maybe he'll get into the whole coaching thing. But he'd be a fiery guy.
Right.
He'd be the cards, like the red cards and stuff, the yellow cards, might still follow him on the sidelines.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Charles Bard gave me the only technical I've ever gotten in a basketball game. I was coaching 5th and 6th grade Wallgrass girls basketball. The guy teased me up. He saw the fire in my eyes, he said.
Did you even actually say anything to deserve the technical, or was it complete bullshit?
Yeah, it was complete bullshit.
Yeah.
I think I maybe did question a call very, very lightly, very politely. He teed me up.
First of all, who tees up middle school coaches, especially out in Wallagrass? We have to talk to Charles about that. We have to
It's
find
not.
out.
It wasn't even middle school. It's 5th and 6th grade girls
It's
basketball.
six girls basketball. It's unbelievable. We'll have to talk to Charles about this next time we get him on the pod. What was it like? We talked about integrating and just being around the guys from different countries, different cultures, and stuff like that. But how about integrating into like a different style of soccer? Because obviously, if you go from high school to college, that's a jump right there. But even just the style of play, when you're going from playing Northern Maine soccer to playing with a bunch of guys from all over the world, was it an easy integration? Was it a little bit more different than what you were expecting? Was it pretty easy?
Well, the best thing for me was the fact that me and Charles were doing it together.
Yeah.
Because I'd been playing with Charles for a few years at that point. Wing back. I want to say wing. I was probably suited to play a wing back of all the positions, so I felt very natural there. But we had men's. I mean, we were already playing more of a possession style, so we might have actually been less tactical in college than we were in high school. And then Malik Curry was the assistant coach at the time, and he basically took care of the defense.
Yeah.
So we were. I mean, he was a really good defensive soccer coach. So in terms of positioning, where to be, how to play, even it's like so when the sweeper comes out the ball goes through the defense and the sweeper comes out to take it, switching, cover, that type of stuff. I mean, he was a good teacher of the game. I got to tell you, I had some really really good coaches when I was growing up.
Yeah, it sounds like it just all the way through. You've had some pretty incredible, legendary coaches at that.
Yeah, guys, people that knew the game really well.
Yeah,
and they taught it really well. I mean, I guess I wouldn't call myself a great coach, but I've been able to teach things that they've taught me. So I guess their lessons are into their second, third generation now.
Right. So along with when it comes from making the jump from high school to college and just the competition level going up a notch, also with that comes the level of physicality. Were you playing a little bit more hard and maybe a little bit more dirty once you got to college?
Well, see, that's the misnomer. Is I was never a dirty player.
Okay.
But I was a very physical player.
Right.
And I was also stupid, so if there's a ball that I probably couldn't win, I still went after it anyway.
Yeah.
And that made for sometimes unfortunate collisions, but honestly, a lot of those times I won the ball.
Did you have any nasty injuries?
Did I did have one rough day. We played at Paul Smith's, and I don't know what it was. This guy just kept coming after me. So he kneed me in the groin area,
Oh, shit.
which hurt. I pulled a muscle in like my upper groin, which is really like your lower abdomen.
Yep.
That hurt. That took a long time to actually recover from. Bruised a rib. I think I had a concussion that game, but that was before concussions were a thing,
Right.
So yeah, that was a tough game. That took a couple of weeks to recover from.
And at that point too, the conference you guys were playing was really competitive. So you guys had a lot of intense rivalries. Like when Umpy was always a physical game, Machias was always a physical game. Just you guys went up against a lot of really good teams.
Yeah, Umpy was tough. Machias was tough. Paul Smith's was not tough in terms of like scoring goals, but I mean they beat you up a little bit. They were very physical.
Yeah.
I don't know that they were dirty. I mean, I think the guy that took me out a couple times was trying to take me out a couple times, but like I said, they played hard. You can respect that. They're playing hard, going after the ball. I can respect that.
And your college teams kind of took the same path as your high school teams, where you guys kind of got better every year, and then come your senior year, you guys won the conference and got to go to nationals, right?
Yeah, we actually. I feel like we did that. Did we do that my freshman year? Did we win the conference? No, you're right. It would have been later on because we went to Ohio.
Yeah, that was the first time Charles rode on an airplane. It was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Corey Scardina was on that team. He would have been a freshman.
And then
Corey and Rob Rochester. We had a bunch of guys from Trape Academy come up because Paul Paul had coached them at Trey.
Yeah, Mike Sinclair in there?
Mike Sinclair was in that group. Yeah.
A lot of good guys. A lot of good guys that came through. But the game that got you to nationals, actually, there might have been a couple games where you guys played in the snow, like snow bowls.
That year we definitely had a snow game. Remember, there's a big picture of it.
Yeah, so they had to paint the ball orange so you guys could see the ball. The field was covered in snow. The ball
was covered in snow.
The ball
snowed throughout the game.
Yeah, snow throughout the game. You couldn't really see what was going on. And then the ball must have felt like you were kicking like a block of ice. Like that ball must have hurt.
Yeah, I don't remember it hitting me. I don't think I played much in that game.
But either way, that was the one that got you guys to nationals. That's the game I remember most from your college era, because you played with Charles and stuff like that. You have any other games that kind of stick out in your mind, or any other moments from college soccer?
Yeah, my freshman year got Chad. Is it Bouchard? I think it was Chad Bouchard. He had been playing. He was a goalie for Wisdom.
Yep.
He was our goalie, and we used to have a preseason little round robin out in Presque Isle. And he broke his hand in that preseason game. So I played goalie for one game in college. And I think it was like 5-1 or 5-2 we lost.
You gave up 5 goals?
Yeah, it was terrible.
And then they wound up putting James Page in goal instead of you.
James Page came up in goal. I was that bad.
You got replaced by James Page. Unbelievable. Yeah, probably shouldn't have told that story. Probably should have kept that one to yourself right there.
Right, James Page is a legend.
Oh, God.
He replaced me.
Yeah, it's true.
Not many people that can replace me.
Right.
And James Page did it.
And
Zach Cody played a couple games in goal that year too, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of like the ragtag bunch, and I feel like that after that year, that's when Malik started bringing in more and more international guys, and you guys kind of got better from there. But
yeah, because even the international guys that played soccer for us that year, they were just kind of there at the university. I don't think they weren't there to play soccer.
Right. It was the year after that. That's when you started getting the real deal after that.
Yeah.
Who was the most talented player you play with?
Juan Murphy.
That seems to be the consensus amongst most folks. They say Juan Murphy. He was incredible.
And I don't know if I dreamt this, because I think about it now and I think it's so unrealistic. But I feel like he showed up to the field one day and just like put like 4 balls down and started pointing at crossbars and just started hitting them and said, "Hey, can I play soccer?" We're like, "Yeah, okay." But he was, nobody went through him.
Yeah.
He could hit the ball from 40 yards out wherever he wanted to. Win balls in the air. I mean, yeah, he was a good player. I mean, I know we've had a lot of really good players come through, and I've watched a lot of them play, but Juan Murphy is definitely the best player I've ever played with.
I agree. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. It's a shame he's not in there already, but...
Oh, yeah, Frederick Solid was on that team, too.
Freddie, I remember Freddie.
Freddie, he could juggle longer than anyone I know.
Yeah, just a lot of tremendously talented players, and just a lot of great personalities too.
Yeah, that was a really fun group of guys to hang out with.
What were you guys?
More than just soccer. I mean, we didn't take bus rides. We used to drive vans.
Yeah, wasn't there one year like you guys flipped the van, or were you playing that when that happened?
I wasn't on that team. I think Coop was driving that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was in the paper. It was a big deal right there. What were you guys doing for fun?
What
were some of the hangout spots?
I think Cooper's apartment.
Yeah.
We hung out at Cooper's apartment. That was it. We did. I was still like, I'm from Fort Kent, so we drove the loop all the time. So probably doing the loop, hanging out at Coop's apartment. We do the loop and just drive by Coop's apartment until we noticed he was home. I slept on your parents' couch a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as you don't remember that growing up, me waking up to me on your couch.
That was a regular occurrence for a couple of years, I want to say.
I think I lived there. I probably owe your parents rent money.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who owe money, I think, for free food and a place to crash and stuff like that. But it's all right. They're cool. They're kind people.
Listen, the first apartment I ever had was with Charles.
That's true. The trailer out in Wallagrass, right?
The trailer up in Wallagrass.
How was that? How was Charles as a roommate? That was Charlie's first time out on his own. Another big moment in his life.
Yeah, no, Charles was good. I mean, There's a lot of stories I probably can't tell from those days, but we had a lot of fun there.
Were you guys were you big into the Wallagrass loop as well, or were you just Fort Kent looping it?
No, so we would do we call it the Soldier Pond Loop.
Yeah.
So that was always a good time. And then in the winter we do the Eagle Lake Loop.
Yep.
Because you could drive all the way down Slabrook Road and then cross the lake on the ice.
Oh, you're actually doing that? You're actually crossing the lake?
Yeah, and listen, man, we're in Fort Kent. There really wasn't a lot to do.
I didn't know that was even a thing. I didn't even know there was an Eagle Lake Loop.
Yeah, man. But only in the winter.
Yeah, only during certain times.
I mean, really, probably January and February.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know that I crossed the lake, but the fun part was, God, who did we bring? We brought somebody once on the lake, and God, do you remember a kid named Courtney?
Was he in high school? Courtney Katie?
In high school?
Yeah, Courtney Katie.
Courtney Katie, yeah. So we brought him on the lake once, and we stopped the car. And then we told him, hey, we're in the middle of a lake right now. And he freaked out. So those are good times. I mean, and back then, like Round Point and stuff, they were still open. So we went to those places.
Yeah, the typical spots.
Yeah, I mean, nothing, I guess, worse than anyone else did at that point. But that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So you graduated from University of Maine at Fort Kent. What degree did you get anyway? What did you graduate with?
So I graduated with a degree in Bachelor of University Studies in secondary education.
So was teaching always the goal, or did you have something else in mind upon graduation?
Well, I had I mean, I don't you know my story a little bit. So I went to school that first semester and played soccer with Charles and all those guys.
Yep.
But I didn't go to school the second semester, so I went to go work at the lumber mill. Then I had my accident where I cut my fingers. So at that point, I kind of really didn't have many other options but to go back to school.
Right.
So I went back to school, and teaching, I guess, was the only thing I was interested in doing, helping other kids. Because when I worked at the mill, I had actually put in my 2 weeks notice at the mill, and I was going into the Marines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'd gone to MEPS, and I was actually supposed to be leaving on February 14. And then a couple weeks before that, I ended up cutting my fingers.
That just changed. That changed everything right there. Different course after that.
Changed everything, yeah. So that when I had my accident at the mill, that was on a Wednesday, and Friday was my last day of work. Supposed to be my last day of work.
Shit.
Yeah.
Crazy timing.
It happens. It's happened to better people and to worse people than I am.
Right.
And I got a beautiful wife, 2 great kids, so a great job. I love the people I'm around. So
yeah, and also like we mentioned in the beginning, now the coach of the Fort Kent Community High School girls soccer team. What year did you start coaching?
So I started coaching in 2010, the fall of 2010.
Who was the coach before you? Who'd you replace?
Kevin St. Jar.
Let's see. Oh, he was there for a couple years, right?
Yeah, and he had some decent teams. I mean, they lost to Orono in the Eastern Maine Championship the year before I started coaching.
Yep.
I think it was 1-0. They lost down in Orono. But we had so many great kids coming back, and I mean, I was living in Fort Kent at the time, so I'd watched a lot of those games that year of the girls, and I knew the team coming back was going to still be loaded. So when I got the job, I think me and Larry Murphy were the ones that had applied for that position, but the girls' basketball position was also open. So Larry ended up coaching the girls' basketball team, and I coached the soccer team because I was still pretty young. I want to say it was 8 years ago, so I was 26, 27.
Yep.
So we were pretty loaded. I actually, when I sent them their schedule that year, I had highlighted the Eastern Maine Championship date.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was my little trick up my sleeve. But that was that was the goal because they had lost there the year before. And they returned a lot of good players.
Were you coaching JV prior to that, or was this your first coaching gig ever right here?
That was my first varsity coaching. I coached the middle school team the year before.
Nice. It's quite it's a little bit of a jump right there, but still not too bad.
It was a big jump, but I had coached a couple of years as the assistant coach for Lucas.
Yep.
And and then the schedule, like teaching and stuff like that, wouldn't really allow me to coach college anymore. So
Right.
I was able to coach the middle school team for a year, and then I jumped up to the varsity level.
And then it's been success ever since. So you've been there for 8 years now.
Yeah, this fall will be my 8th year, so 7 years.
No losing seasons yet, right? Winning record every year.
No, actually, I think last year we had a losing record. Yeah, we've had a couple rebuilding years here, a couple 8 seeds.
But nonetheless, just a string of success. You mentioned some Eastern Maine crowns, some heartaches, some tough defeats in the state championship. But I want to say this is probably the best streak of success that the girls team's probably ever had.
Well, so there's 3 Eastern Maine Championship banners on the wall, and those are the 3 that we've won in the past 7 years. So, I've had some really good groups of girls. Like that first year I stepped into coaching, I mean, Becca Martin was my sweeper, and I didn't really have to tell her anything. She kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Sam Carapellucci and Jess Walker were our wing backs, and then Carissa Peltier was our goalie.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? No, not too many teams are going to be scoring goals on us. Just had some good players up top. Abby Stevens, just Emily Bard. Just great athletic players.
Superstar.
But we had a great team, and we had kids on the bench that had, a lot of game experience, and they were on our bench. I mean, that's how good we were at that year.
Yeah. And it seems like you've established just a program. Like you said, you mentioned that there's been a couple rebuilding years. But what's going to happen when you have great players and they leave? Obviously it's going to be a little bit of a fall off. But it seems like you've established a program, which is important. That's what you need for longevity right there. So that seems to be the case right now.
Yeah, and even last year, I know we lost to Central in the quarterfinals, but I thought our year was great. We played our schedule was Madawaska, who was probably the second or third best team in Class D. Played Ashland, who's been to the last 4 state championships in Class D. Caribou, who's the number 1 team in B. Presque Isle, who ended up winning Eastern Maine in B. Holton won states in Class C. I mean, our schedule was brutal this year, so I was proud of the way the girls played this year, probably just as much as any other year that I've coached.
Right. What's this upcoming year looking like? You got a lot of players coming back?
Yeah, we got a lot of people coming back. I mean, we have a lot of experience coming back as well at some key spots. A lot of good young players that are, I think, ready to step into some roles that we're going to be asking a lot of them.
Yep.
I think high school is one of those cyclical things where Holton's had a few great years. They just had this really great group coming through. But a lot of kids just graduated last year. Same thing for Caribou. So it looks like our cycle kind of might be coming about where we might be able to string together some wins and maybe do some good things in the playoffs.
What are some of the Eagle Lake legends that you looked up to when you were growing up? It could have been sports, could have been anything. I feel like we hear a lot about St. Francis and Allagash and Madtown and all these other surrounding areas, but we don't hear a whole lot about Eagle Lake. So what are some of the old school studs that people from other parts of the valley might not know about?
Who would be the 4 greatest from Eagle Lake to ever do it? Could be male or female.
Well, I can only talk about people that I remember, right?
Yep.
So I know, like back in the day, I'm sure there was some. Dave Perrin was probably really good. Bob Parent, Al Boutot, those guys are all good basketball players. Kristen Violet.
Oh yes, there we go. Good name. First time she's been mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah, so she was a really good player.
Yeah.
Kristen Violet. Basketball, right?
No, it could be any sport. Just athletes in general from Eagle Lake.
Robby Nadeau.
There we go. You got to put yourself in there.
Robby Nadeau.
I've got another female. I'm gonna see if you name her though.
Well, I mean, like Sam Carapellucci.
I wasn't even thinking her, but yeah, she's got to be on there too. I would think.
Yeah. God, Mindy Morno was a great goalie.
Yeah, and she was a great basketball player too. Like that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say Mindy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to really. I saw her playing games and stuff, but talking to Marissa said Mindy was just phenomenal in goal.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
That's 5.
Have we just come to the conclusion that Eagle Lake produces better female athletes than male athletes?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think Jason Jolie did pretty well in high school basketball.
Yeah. I think the names you named, I think that's an incredible Mount Rushmore. I think that will go up against any other Mount Rushmore from any other team or any of the other schools in the district right there. So that's solid.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that group. I'll take that group to war.
Absolutely. You see yourself in a position where you want to be here for a while and just establish a legacy, a dynasty, maybe be there for like 20, 30 years and just go down as the greatest to ever do it?
I don't know that that's going to happen. I think right now I'm on a year-to-year type of thing.
Yeah.
I got 2 young kids. Charlotte's going to be 5 here in July. I do know eventually I'm going to want to start coaching her, and maybe not even coaching her, just by being available to watch her play.
Right.
When soccer starts taking me away from their stuff, I think that's when it'll be time to hang up the old clipboard.
Gotcha. Do you ever flip out on your girls? Like, do you break clipboards and throw shit and stuff like that, or are you pretty? What's your coaching style? For those that aren't familiar.
Well, I mean, I'm not much of a yeller. I yell to the kids, not so much at them. I try to pull a lot of mins where I try to be very tactical and talk about possession and those types of things. It's very, very rare that I would yell at the team. In fact, I think the girls know that they should be scared when I'm talking calmly. Because I usually get really excited when I'm talking about soccer, but when my voice is just low and I'm explaining something to them, they probably know that I'm not very happy with the way they're playing or what they're doing at the time.
Gotcha. All right, this is the part of the episode where we get deep for a moment, and I want my guests to really ponder and think about this question. We don't have a title for the segment or a sponsor. We're working on that. We're working on sponsor stuff. But the question is, when you die, what jersey do you want to be buried in? For you, you got a couple options. I mean, you could even be buried in your coaching outfit if you want, I guess. So which one means the most to you? Which uniform that you've worn is the dearest to your heart?
I have a it's a really great question. I mean, so I look at accomplishments, and I think I would look back at I think of my coaching accomplishments, right? And my team accomplishments as I'm a coach. The 2010 is special because that was my first year. 2012 was special because everyone thought that was going to be a real rebuilding year. 2014 is special because we had a lot of ups and downs that season and really peaked at the end. So I'm going to go with the 2012 championship jacket because after the 2014 year, I had all the years embroidered on it.
Okay.
So that kind of brings everything into focus.
That's what we'll go with right there.
And if I could, I'd bring my old pair of black Adidas cleats from high school.
And you should just wear the wrestling leotard underneath it all.
Yeah. Well, not. I'll let the bottom show. I'll have the jacket on my wrestling.
With the cleats on.
With the cleats on.
Yeah.
Cleats will be smelling up the coffin.
All right.
It's funny though. I'll say I think that in high school I consider myself a wrestler.
Yeah.
Before a soccer player, but now, soccer is kind of the passion.
We all know you for soccer now. That's what you're gonna go down and remembered as.
Right.
All right.
You know what, man? Any good coach, anybody that's ever coached will tell you this too. I've been fortunate to coach some really great kids and some really talented kids. It's easy on the sideline to just kind of put the X's and O's together, but those kids, when they go out, and you need kids that can go out and execute that stuff. And I've been really lucky to have those types of kids.
No doubt. A lot of talented kids. That's what we do up there. That's what we do in the Valley. We produce talented, good people. That's what we do.
You're right, man.
All right, so it's time for our sponsored segment, Charlito Wonders, brought to you by Rock's Family Diner, the greatest diner in all the land. Go on in there, get yourself a puts in, cheeseburger, movie pie for dessert, wash it all down.
Well, listen, if you go to Rocks, you get a mix.
Yeah, you have to. It's an absolute must. So, Charlito Wonders, Big Bro Charles, what's going on?
Yo, Robby Ned, what's up, my dudes? Charlito. Yo, I'll miss you, my dude. Many good memories looking back from giving you your first technical foul as a head coach in Wallagrass days to playing Beard Eye with some Bacardi 151 to hanging out with the homies and just hiding out from you. I'm just wondering, man, you were like an enforcer on the soccer field. I want somebody to take it out. Robby Ned, take out number 12. Robby Ned, take out number 14. I know you were vicious. What were, the listeners want to know, like, what was the worst injury that you sustained while playing? I know there's some pretty vicious ones down. I think it might have been in New York. So what was the worst injury you encountered while playing sports, man?
I'll tell you, after that game in New York against Paul Smith, I had a hard time thinking straight for a long time. So I couldn't walk very well because I pulled a groin muscle. And I remember coming out of the game and I couldn't breathe. I could breathe in is all I wanted, but breathing out was really difficult. So I think that has to be probably the worst I ever sustained. The worst injury I ever inflicted on anybody was at home in Fort Kent. Again, I'm playing defense. This other guy's a wing. He's playing offense, and we got a ball in the air. So we're both running at the ball, like basically towards each other. So I go up to head the ball away, and he goes up to head the ball to pass the ball with his head, and we just collided in air as we're both heading the ball. So his nose was shattered, and his nose hit the back kind of corner of my head. So I still have a scar there actually. I ended up. I mean, I was okay. I had a little bit of blood in my head, but he was in trouble. So I think they brought the ambulance out to get him. But if you see Matt Rosnell, he was reffing that game, and he'll tell you that story. It was a clean play. We were both going after the ball, and we just hit into each other.
Just one of those plays, just one of those bang bangs. All right, so we've reached the end of the episode. This has been Robby Nadeau on Big Time. Robby, give him a big time one more time before we get up out of here.
Big time.
Any parting words you want to give before we get up out of here?
If you're gonna do something, do your best at it. That's all that matters.
There we go. That's wise words from a wise man. So thank you for listening to Big Time. If you haven't checked out our other episodes, do so on iTunes. Go check them all out. We're also up on YouTube. But that is it for today's episode. We'll see you next time.